In Grim Dawn, you convert any and all opposition into experience and gear more powerful and colorful than the last. But what if you were, like, colorblind? Can you beat Grim Dawn with only white items? The rules of this challenge are simple. I can only use white items. I assume you have no questions because we're moving on. By the end of this run, I want to see myself take on the bosses with gear so foul, the merchants don't even bother stocking them. I should have been careful what I wished for. I named myself White Death after the Finnish sniper. Perkele. Seemed fitting. I'll be skipping most of the main story, since I already covered it in a previous video. The focus here is the challenge, followed by the DLC. Once the exposition was done unfolding, I was very excited to try on the werewolf. And oh boy, did it deliver. Powerful as heck.
It's so overtuned.
Like usual, I only did the side quests that were courteous enough to position themselves conveniently enough for me to bother. The funny thing was, the last soldier cried monster when he saw me. The NPCs reacted to my wolf form? Awesome, I thought.
Rar.
Then it never happened again.
Grandma Sparkles, I've returned.
The ethereal undead in the first act were basically the white items of the enemy roster, like a stoppable pool noodle meeting a movable thing, nothing to email your boss over. Right up until Burp Witch happened. From there on out, nobody cried wolf. Instead, they did all they could to lay their hands on me and peel my fur from my skin, slowly, without using any tools. At Underground Transit, I finally filled all the slots with white gear. Since white accessories do not exist in the game, you might find this unbelievable, but having new boots didn't matter much, because the further I played, the harder the enemies got, and that's a problem, more than you know, because I haven't told you why yet. That one simmering basement dweller burned my confidence right out.
Okay, you know what? I can just ignore that guy, I don't need to kill it. I wanted this note anyway, bye-bye.
It was only fitting my next duel with another one ended just as badly.
Oh, there we go. We both died, me and the big bad. Hey, I'm back to return some quests. Never mind how I got here.
Since I was in the neighborhood, by my own choice obviously, I decided to get Direni undone.
Who's kicking my butt?
You know you're in deep when something as worthless as Direni cements hit and run as your playstyle.
I have never lost that fight, I don't even know what happens if you lose it. Up yours, Direni.
I traded in every quest I'd accidentally completed, checked in with the village lunatic, reunited him with his apprentice, and walked away with exactly what I came for: experience. Werewolf finally gave me enough sustain to stand my ground, at least for Barbababa Silver's Lithole quest, because back in the dungeon, Warden's Bouncer almost beat the Sonic coins out of me, and I was back to hit and run. For the Warden himself, the first form was nothing special, but once the floor saws hit the floor, the Warden started his Sailor Moon transformation sequence. That's when things took a turn for the hurt. Everything he did had the potential for pain, but once he applied the dart shotgun at close range, I got to see my new friends back at the camp. Every mistake removed roughly 80% of my lifespan, but eventually I learned all of his moves through repeated violent education. Though that didn't stop me from snacking on damage. With enough elbow deep in pain, I emerged victorious from this trial. How could things possibly get worse, I hear you ask? Bullets. They have a certain element to them, lead, and that tends to irritate once it gets under your skin. After surviving Sir Sanks-a-Lot, I accidentally ran into Skinner. I used my shooting appearance to my advantage and convinced him not to burn down his family. The apocalypse has really brought out the upset in people. I returned to town for my stern handshake, tried on the bird suit, and finally understood the power of fashion. My original plan had been overwhelming offense. My revised plan was surviving on literally anything. My defense notes didn't make much of a difference. To get forward, I needed dynamite. The only habitat I knew of was guarded by a trailer park boss who shouldn't have mattered.
Crap baskets, crap baskets!
He did.
Haha, we won in the end. Wasn't even hard.
Thanks to the voices in my head, I finally pieced together that shops exist, which was fortunate, because somewhere between Warden and Grunley, white items simply stopped dropping. The challenge had quietly evolved from only white gear into only white gear you already own. Somehow, it never crossed my mind that the game would eventually stop handing me gear even the vendors wanted nothing to do with. Luckily, the shopkeepers were willing to lower their standards, for now. Because it didn't last, I found a couple of new armor pieces, dragged the other merchant back to camp, and squeezed a few more upgrades out of him. It still wasn't enough. Both pit enjoyers were at the playground, and I'd reached the point where optional fights started looking optional. Moneybag should have joined that list. Instead, I collided with him, and somebody gets to perform a forensic investigation on a pile of ashes.
What the freak?
Of course, I hadn't opened a new portal in a while. In a mature response, I kept spamming it every 2 seconds.
Okay, we got this far. Then I remembered there's a portal right here I could have used. User issue.
I lured Moneybags away from his groupies for a more honest duel. I didn't stand a ghost of a chance.
So Bourbon's dog has come barking.
Dog? I take offense to that. I'm a wolf.
For a while, I wondered if his health was even moving. His punch certainly hurt, but he was nowhere nearly as dangerous as his lackey. Moneybags had already done most of the murder on my ego.
Ooh, la la la. Stop laughing, it's not funny. It hurts.
The Arcavian undead knew exactly how to make me feel like I just hit the wrong neck of the hoods. The wolf had run out of excuses. It wasn't surviving. So I threw every skill point into the bird. On paper, Raven solved my biggest problem. It attacked from range and was instantly safer. In reality, I had accidentally built the world's least spirited wizard. No amount of redemption points could save it. Aiming spells on controller sucks pro random balls. If the spell doesn't get caught in some random ground clutter, it gets auto-aimed in a way that's not exactly mana efficient. Every enemy above Cutter tier became an exercise in wearing out my mana flask finger, so I started ignoring most of them. The super mutant behemoth was as low as he is stupid. Instead of a fight, I got a war on my patience. The mountain deeps were even worse. The fight over the sisters' leftovers took so long, I decided nothing else in that cave was worth my time. I was so done at this point. But I wanted the homestead portal, because there was no way in hell I was going through the mountain deeps again if I changed my mind. Naturally, the fight for the gate dragged on. And to make matters worse, the emissary couldn't even be bothered to cheer me on. Once Homestead opened its legs for me, I looked back at the pile of taunts I just endured, jumped back to the main menu, and started over. Where the wolf and the raven failed, maybe skeletons could keep the enemies busy instead. They actually did. Right up until the Pirin Joyas deleted me twice. At least I got revenge on Moneybags. The fight against Grunley started well. My skeleton stood in the floor sauce and got cooked. I was leading an army of orange cats. Skeletons have a nasty habit of peeking early, then slowly becoming decorative furniture. I already knew that. Naturally, I picked them anyway. By the time I reached Homestead, I'd already decided to start over. 2 characters down. The challenge had won every round so far, but I wasn't done arguing with it. My third plan was to rely on the strongest build I've ever played, the Dark Walker. It's got sustain, I think. That's actually all I remember about it. Good enough. I speedran the early game like I was trying to impress the nobody watching. That's how it felt anyway. But the Dark Walker build actually builds a lot slower than the Skeleton build. The Warden was a breeze. Only hiccup. My Raven shift ended mid-battle and he started playing with one hand, only casting heals. I'm ducking his berries. Nothing much happened between Sir Sanksalot and Grumley's hideout. Moneybags was the first enemy in a while to remind me this was still a challenge. Damage indeed does damage. I wasn't done feeling good about kicking his bucket for him. Grumley basically just chased me across the room while my minions pretended to help. At Twin Falls, some Cutter tier skeletons must have hit me, because I almost bled to death then and there. Bad sign. On the upside, I got me a new dog. I was not happy about the way the skeletons treated me, so I pouted behind a pillar. This challenge so far has made me appreciate the Arcovian undead in a new, negative light. They were so much trouble in every stretch of the word that I just ignored my way out quickly. On the way to the super mutant behemoth, I started treating the enemies with even more respect. The debate over the big green idiot's continued existence felt longer than the minute it took to take him down. Mountain Deeps was about as pleasurable as it was going to get for me. The roachkin held on well, but it was barely an inconvenience. While fertilizing the field on the way to Homestead, the ethereal Mother Appreciators finally stopped huffing glue for a minute and pieced it together that they actually despised me. The battle for Homestead Gate wasn't anything noteworthy. It could be measured in super mutant behemoth fights. For the first time in the history of my Can You Beat Grim Dawn with only white items runs, I reached Homestead without immediately rolling a new character. Before leaving, I made sure to ignore any Homesteadians asking for help. Not saying I bring nothing to the table. Somewhere out there, there's a village that's one idiot lighter. You're welcome. Not much happened until I opened the gate to hell.
Oh my lord!
That was their way of informing me I wasn't welcome. I barely survived thanks to a tactical, totally planned level up. One of my dogs also spent the entire fight outside the arena. no hazard pay, and no help. Thanks. Naturally, the fight I dreaded the most was actually the easiest part. The biggest obstacle between me and rescuing the farmers was getting lost in the Blood Grove. That's something so canon it happens every time. The obstacle in second place was the red sky lightning that hit-scanned my cardiogram anorexic, and it was not limited to one postal code.
Oh, it happened again!
Somewhere along the way, Grim Dawn quietly became a Minecraft crossover. It got progressively worse over time. The Metro Ticket Inspector possessed the capacity to shock away 90% of my HP in one zap.
Oi! Frick, that hurt.
Or all of it, if he so chose.
Oi!
I almost beat him without becoming the station's new grotesque welcome mat. Now, Carrows. Oh boy, he was able to tunnel snap me whenever he felt like it.
No! I just healed myself. No!
The only time I spent alive was by his mercy.
Oh, there we go again.
At this point, things were not looking particularly encouraging.
Please, please attack the thing. No!
Eventually, through a combination of persistence, luck, and Carrows temporarily forgetting to kill me, I managed to outlast him.
Oh, thank God. It's finally over.
As was foretold, the ground's obsession with black squares had only gotten worse. I did the only sensible thing, ignore it and set out for Fort Icon. This proved more difficult than anticipated. My problems with lightning had only changed color. There's more than one way to one-shot a Ketchu. Once Fort Icon was part of my fast travel network, the new DLC was finally on the table, which meant I could continue to suffer somewhere new. My first quest into the unknown was to find missing scouts. Along the way, I discovered the local wildlife had strong opinions about that plan.
They want a piece of me, and all I can do is take it. Can't really say no!
I'm starting to really dislike birds.
Crap. Everything hurts!
Then the unicorns joined the discussion.
Oh no!
I felt so emasculated, I did the unmanliest thing possible and stopped to ask for directions. The locals responded by insulting me, my people, and giving me a chore instead. Apparently, dinner wasn't going to hunt itself. I like my personal space. Unfortunately, the rhinos like it too. Since the four-legged tanks could turn me into a hood ornament in 2 hits, I tried getting less fragile. The blacksmith couldn't help. White items remain society's least favorite rarity. Components and constellation points were slightly more cooperative. I could now survive 2 hits. Dinner disagreed.
Ooh! That hurt!
Eventually, my dogs handled the packaging. As my reward, I got another dose of racism and, finally, some vague directions to the missing scouts. Following the finger pointing, I headed north. Really took in the sights while out there, but tourism wasn't this region's biggest export. The next group of locals were the same as the first. Hostility, then a chore. The only bit of info they gave me was trashing any hope that the scouts were still alive. Sure, I'll waste time looking for medicine while my scouts freeze to death. Turns out I found the scouts first. Right after my puppers buried the obstacle, I kicked the scouts back home through a portal, then enjoyed the first voiced NPC this DLC had to offer. He pointed me toward the next quest hub, Kernhold, and warned me that the residents might not be excited to meet me. Thanks. Couldn't have seen that one coming. Along the way, an enemy killed me with diarrhea it dropped upon its demise.
Oh my gosh!
Not surprising, since the area it called home looked like a colon. Other than that, things were working well. I let my dogs make the introductions before yelling profanities at the enemy. Naturally, I got cocky, and the Draugr flaunted their white privilege.
Go, my minions! Put those foul creatures back in the ground. I forgot they do that. When the frick do I learn?
I then spent some quality time getting punished for my hubris. At this point, I turned to the only advantage apparently available to me, shrine hunting off camera. With the sky dots connected, I enjoyed the almost non-existent difference it made. Fortunately, the Valley of 8 Green Miles wasn't that interested in killing me. The local reskin grubbles were slow and dumb like an undead turtle. On the way, I found Jonas the courier in a cage. Surprisingly, it wasn't a king, he was there against his will. The grubbles were saving him for something. I chose not to imagine it further. My hot dog is usually the first one to die. Not this time. He survived the longest against Balrog's missing hemorrhoid. Proud of him. Watching the fight made me very happy I wasn't trying to do this as a werewolf anymore. The legend spoke true.
Your presence here is an insult.
Well, that's a nice way to break the ice.
Green God from Ulkram. Seduction. By your powers combined, I am inside. Since the hospitality continued to be lacking, I decided to see what else Kernhold had to offer. While sightseeing, I met Jonas again. and traded in his missing shipment for a quest reward. That's right, I found it somewhere in the valley. With the new hub partially explored, I went to meet the chieftain. She gave me the usual rundown of everything going wrong, then sent me to put down something in Guardian's Sorrow. When I tried asking questions, she got rude about how she's not a hostess. Then when I agreed to return to the corruption talks, she recited the entire speech again without batting an eye. Lots of mixed messaging there. I'll just assume that's how chieftains communicate. With my orders vaguely stored behind my eyeballs, I set out to deal with whatever was causing the problem. A few whole crane minutes into the next area, I realized I hadn't activated the gate in Valheim land.
Stupid bunnies, taking it out on you. I love backtracking. Who else likes backtracking? Isn't it just the greatest?
Back on the trail, the corrupted Nords had a lot to say, especially the birds. Hard to take them seriously, really. To make the target on my back smaller, I invested in Ember Claw. I think it worked. Either that, or I learned better trigger discipline. No clue.
Yeah, that carousel didn't look like something I wanna be a part of.
Soon after, Guardian Sorrow introduced me to a new way of suffering. How fun.
Oh, frick!
Then he entered furry murder mode and deleted my poppers.
Never mind, I think we're running. Oh, frick! Yep, we're running. Frick that guy.
Unfortunately, running away wasn't an option. He had a quest marker.
Yo! Please, sir! It was just a joke. I'm leaving. Frank, bro. I'm a nuisance streamer.
Luckily, he was only interested in my buttocks that one time. After that, he just erased my dogs and lost interest.
Okay.
So I won by abusing his goodwill.
Chthonic corruption. I destroyed it.
And the world was saved.
Oh, we need to walk all the way over there. Get me an escalator or something, please. Whew, you better appreciate this.
Back at Kernhold, the High Chief gave me the classic combo of a pat on the back and another problem to solve. The blood wagons of the 3 cardinal directions in the Dread Wastes. I chose the questions route again. She was willing to answer them, but it wasn't voice acted.
Very well, Erulian. I will sate your curiosity. Did I nail it, guys? Bloody games trying to make me read, trying to make me smart. Not happening.
Not long into the hot springs, I realized I hadn't actually accepted the quest.
Dang it, I'm a man. I'm not going to ask for directions. I'll figure it out.
Deeper into the warm Borderlands, I scientifically deduced that the ground looked like it had third-degree burn scars. At the ruins of Utah, the screws started turning and moderation started slipping.
Pain!
After capturing the gate, I took a breather and finally admitted directions were probably worth asking for.
Blah 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 blah, I will seal these wounds. Thank you very much.
And then it was back into the blender.
Oh, freak! No! Ooh! Yup. And there we are, almost dead again. Open portal, open portal. This place had freaking 2 portals. I bet this place thinks it's special.
I was glad to hit Dread Wastes. I could finally relax, let my hair down, unbutton my shirt a little.
Freak, what the heck?
Sealing the first blood wagon wasn't anything too difficult. I was just happy nothing crawled out of the Eldritch vagina. For the rest of the make-believe gates, reaching them was actually harder than breaking them. Along the way, I found a blood basin I could offer blood to. I've seen enough horror stuff to know better. Next, the boss babe made me the old lady's problem. She then sent me to talk to the 3 ghosts of Incompetence Past. The first one needed me to beat 95% of the desert DLC for a lighter. I couldn't wait.
I will find this flame.
The second idiot needed a heart from the World's Tear. I started to lose my enthusiasm.
I will acquire this heart.
The last one wanted a golem's essence and the body parts of its children. I was so ready to beat the base game just to reach the swamps where they nested.
I will get you what you need.
So this is what rolling an S-rank mission early feels like. I started with the heart, since World's Tear is connected to the Dread Wastes, and I'd already helped plenty of souls reach the afterlife in that postal code. Remember that time when I said I avoided blooding up the blood basin? That was wild. Moments later, I met a boss who just did his damnedest to make sure I had lived my last life.
Oi! Okay, new crew, new life, new me. No! Frick! Please, go. I'm clicking go. Yipe!
It was a delicate balancing act of not being an inch too close to him when he decided whose day to fuck
Subscribe.
up.
Yes! See this? See this? You idiot!
Found some children along the way. Decided to rescue them because why not? They are worth their weight in experience, probably. When came the time to explain how I was going to transport them,
That's the fun part. Close your eyes. Oh, you don't say that to a child. Ew.
The world's there was long and stressful because the sign said no portals allowed, with portals coming out of my survival kit. I had to inch my way forward. After everything I'd gone through to get here, it wasn't actually that bad.
Oi! Can't they just take it easy for 1 second? I hate that red floor sauce.
The hearth was guarded by Woody Woodpecker's inbred cousin.
You oppose the inevitable.
Somehow, I dodged every attack through sheer character development. With the sacred heart in my possession, I immediately banished it from my inventory for some sense of closure.
Oh, now for the rest. No, it doesn't mean we get the rest. It means we need to get the rest. Oh my gosh.
You probably saw this coming, but the main quest was way less stimulating than getting that blood pump.
This time I'm going to avoid all the Frick!
I already wasted my time with this, no reason to waste yours. The only problems I can remember were the bouncer and the few notches on Squid China's belt.
Frick!
With the main quest out of the way, the golem family was the next thing on the old lady's shopping list, so I headed for the swamps. Naturally, Ugdenbach was behind the witch refuse or whatever. I assumed I couldn't just walk past it without an offering, and wasn't about to risk another backtrack of same. So I spent around 15 minutes looking for the granddaddy crab. The actual fight was nothing to telegraph home about. I ransacked its body for another heart. I'm sensing a theme here. At the witch refuse, I handed over the takeout ticker and earned my way forward. To my absolute dismay, I accidentally accepted a quest. Now I have to hide my shame every time I log in. Did I imply Gloomwood was a maze? Because I spent over 40 minutes in Ugdenbach looking for Papa Golem's seed. Let's talk pros and cons. Pros. One corpse I made looked like a Ninja Turtle's hand. And that's it. Now for the rancid meat of the trip. The enemies collectively decided to stop holding back. Ignoring them was a good way to get myself trapped. After wasting enough time to qualify for residency, I got desperate and started checking the local caverns. I even stopped by the dangerous domain, just to get fornicated multiple times by the off-brand Squid China. I had to see her name. She could have been the target, you don't know. What else? Oh yeah, Papa Golem has a lot of children. I mailed those problems straight into the eternal unemployment. I must have gotten all of them, because the entire map was practically uncovered by the time I found the secret area where the Big Daddy was hiding. Once I found it, I reveled at the sight of my dogs tearing it apart.
That's it, I'm not gonna stay here a minute longer. Within that minute, I'm gonna check the surroundings real quick though.
All that was left was to reach the very end of the forgotten litter box. Things started off great. I tried to leave without talking to anyone, but they wouldn't let me out unless I joined one of the cults. What a welcoming community. The enemy's newfound lack of chill had followed me out of the swamps. I kind of forgot where to go, so I humbled myself and crawled back to camp to ask for directions. My task was to drain some watchers of their blood. At least it wasn't a heart this time. The Temple of Osier housed my objective and new problems. The ghosts kept pulling the "nothing personal, kid" routine, and the tight corridors made every scuffle too intimate. Annoying. Nevertheless, I pressed onward. I gathered blood, purified a shrine with my presence, and began battling the dungeon boss, whose existence totally slipped my mind. The battle consisted mostly of me dodging death and screaming in circles. Once the boss agreed to partake in population correction, the vomitorium opened, and the peanut gallery I'd ignored earlier poured in. Back outside, I learned that it wasn't actually necessary to enter the temple to trot on forward. At least that's what I thought. You'll see what I mean later. For now, my next quest sent me into the make-believe reality. I wasn't all too happy to be in there. My first issue was that there were enemies that did poison damage. That nonsense belongs to the bugs. These enemies should clearly be the ground type. Stay in your lane. Remember about those tight spaces I was complaining about earlier? The abstract walls made it twice as annoying. After all that terminal education, I figured, again, that I should stop drawing aggro to myself by cursing the enemies as soon as I saw them. Then immediately did it again anyway. Apparently, breath attacks were the special spice of this DLC. I felt so out of place not doing it myself. My next task was to meet the boss at the Vanguard, because the orders just couldn't be relayed at the camp. I started the journey by lamenting the make-believe quest. If I'd never gone back, I'd already be much further along the road. Despite seeing it firsthand, I hadn't yet considered the reality that the cult was perfectly capable of closing doors when they didn't get their way. In Corvan Sands, I ran into the Titano-War. Oh look, another breath attack. He put up a good fight, but he was no match for my infinitely respawning puppies. Apart from getting lost in Chiron Docks, the trip was mostly uneventful. That was until I met the bigger-than-average dog and got absolutely devastated. My plan was to feed the NPCs to it, but my puppers chose that time to be enthusiastic about their jobs. Finally at the Vanguard, I accepted whatever quest the boss had in mind, banished it from my sidebar shortly after, and actively avoided it on my way to the Temple of the Eldritch Sun. No distractions.
These guys are way too fast, these guys are way too fast.
The ruins littered on the way formed many convenient tight spots for the enemies. Sometimes I wasn't even given enough time to pray because they knew whoever I'd be praying to would be meeting me soon anyway. Getting hit wasn't my only problem. Every enemy started feeling like a mountain of hit points, and that got me frustrated. I ignored whatever I could, especially when I had the misfortune of stumbling into that one body positive convention. Despite the top of the screen telling me Sunspire, I ran into Big Bird and ended up all the way on the other end of Sesame Street before realizing I was going the wrong way. I don't know how I keep ending up there every time. When I finally reached the temple door, it was superglued shut with magic. So much for avoiding distractions. And to think I once believed avoiding the quest would save me time. I was so young and naive back then. On the upside, the roads were now more or less clear.
Just when I thought we could just freaking walk in there and get what we need. No! Why would it be any other way?
I took on the guardians at the previously ignored temple of Atep, whatever, one at a time. Unsurprisingly, it was the bird that gave me the most trouble. This little escapade gave us a green Batman, who was apparently supposed to help on the front lines. Not gonna lie, his contributions didn't exactly impress. After attempting to save any time already wasted, ignoring most of the things I'd ignored last time, I made it back to the temple door. The bad guy in the way gave me a mean look, and that really hurt my feelings. He almost did it again, but I was building immunity to sticks and stones. With that idiot pushing daisies, I talked to the old man, and he headbutted the seal open. The next obstacle greeted me with another breath attack. Once he was down, I finally entered the temple. Inside, I paid closer attention to the chunky boys. Turns out, they're not fat, they're actually pretty ripped. They will henceforth be known as Big Bony Boys. Anyway, the rest of the temple. The enemies made a fool out of me, in front of Bicycle. Unforgivable. Naturally, I scouted every corner of the floor before finding the lighter I'd been looking for. It was practically right next to the front door. The time that could have been saved, but wasn't, annoyed me. Back at Kernhold, I got a new mission from Leatherface to meet her at Aurora Peaks. To stop my puppies from exploding, mostly the hot dog, I invested in buns of bismeal. The returns weren't looking great, but I pressed onward, ignoring what I could, until I met rhinos again. The trauma forced my hand. I wanted this challenge to be beat as fast as possible, so I stopped for nothing. There was a child with a quest, but her name was Belladonna. That's a poisonous plant. I'm not falling for it. The catatonic forces really didn't want me to have the Pilgrim's Rest gate. I'm not sure what their issue is. It's an ethereal gate. They've got no business gatekeeping me from it. Before facing the floor some more, I decided my build needed some adult supervision. I moved my points from Ember Claw into Lightning Strike. A ranged nuke seemed much more useful than a melee attack, when everything causality wanted me dead. I also moved some capital from Buns of Pitch Meal into Blood of Creek. It just offered more. Then I spent my constellation points, Blizzard for the hot dog and Elemental Storm for the bird. These may have been copium, but I swear on anything unimportant the clear speed felt faster. With the new skills, I pressed onward toward Leatherface and whatever hellhole she called home. The enemies weren't the only problem. A blizzard rolled in. Dodging white attacks in the middle of all things snow wore out my eyes, and the flaky storm just kept going. Every shrine I encountered went into the turtle constellation. At this point, any defense was helpful. Oh yeah, I think the snowstorm also did damage, which really was the icing on a sundae. Leatherface just couldn't give me my orders back at the camp. No, I had to barrel all the way to the roof of the world. Because of that, I was actually expecting a trap, especially when the boss happened and she just stood nearby, all nonchalant. Then again, maybe not. The boss was useless. Maybe she was just waiting to see who won. Whatever. My next job was to butcher a beast. She lamented that she couldn't join me because of her frail bones, which was fair, yet she made it all the way on top of a ginormous mountain. I know a lot of people way younger than her who wouldn't be able to do that. Maybe people back in the day really were made out of sterner stuff. The arena? Dangerous domain. Of course. A speed debuff as the spice. Because apparently I was dodging too well before. To invite the boss, I got to blow a horn. Several things bothered me. First, I couldn't tell what the frick this chimera mantic or whatever was supposed to be. Second, it barfed worms at me. Disgusting. Apparently someone got turned into pasta sauce while I was making my important rounds on the field. The beast went down with suspiciously little resistance. I was already preparing another speech about how the real boss was the journey.
It's not over yet. I know it's not over yet. That was way too easy.
And I was right. He spat out more worms, summoned lightning, spammed ground slam, and started squirting ink everywhere. Basically, the boss had discovered bullet hell. None of my earlier strategies to keep my puppies alive seemed to impress him.
Oh, look at all those chests over there. Ah, all the loot we don't get to have. Isn't that just wonderful? I'm so motivated to do this boss fight. For effectively no pay, only pain.
I was locked in, dodging everything he dished out, playing the long game. A very long game. So long, in fact, that he regenerated most of the HP my puppies had shaved off. So I had to get a little more intimate. Somehow, I was still surviving. After a long and harrowing battle of 5 minutes, the beast fell. The North DLC was complete. I had won. For saving her people, the boss babe showered me in her thick, dreamy praise. This is where I'd consider the challenge beaten these days, but I was feeling charitable, and I appreciate you. Let's do the other DLC too. Not because I still had 2 hours of stream to go or anything. Oh, baka. Before that though, I got curious how the wolf talking sounds. Turns out he didn't. He communicated entirely through meaningful eye contact. I'm too much of a spurk to read those signs. Since Forgotten Gods was almost done, I started there. Slapping a point into the turtle was like getting new chunk tier boots. Barely did anything, but I felt better, and that's all that matters.
Oh, I forgot to pick up my experience. Oh, that's gone now, whatever. Too late to turn back.
The close to the end flavored dream noodles were annoying as ever. Shiva actually destroyed me way more than the over-glorified mountain lion. Took me almost twice as long to beat too. Maybe we should still consider her the benchmark for challenge runs after all. Then again, the game considers the beast the greater monster. On my way to deal with Malmat, the first white item since Act 1 finally dropped. Of course I couldn't use it.
As one of the greatest thinkers of our time, Owen Wilson would say, wow.
The rescue Ulfric mission took place in one of those no-portal zones, which always makes things extra stressful. From there, the trip was mostly getting lost, getting hit, and doing my best job for them.
Yo, my pets ain't doing their job. Fine, I'll do it. Look at my damage. Okay, I got them to help in the end. I just had to lead by an example.
That was about as hard as it got. Swirling the entire district, looking for the vent that was practically in my face, was mostly self-inflicted. Trooping through the flesh tunnels was mostly uneventful. The last obstacle between me and the end gave me the warmest welcome yet.
I got one shot!
3 more deaths later, I still wasn't paying attention. I just ran in circles and talked with chat. The boss got bored. I won.
All the bosses are down with freaking white items.
I don't think I could have done it without using summons, and considering it took me 70 deaths to get here, this challenge was actually very ass. At one point, I was so desperate for survivability that I considered farming the beginning areas for better white items, just to squeeze out a few more points of armor. Spoiler alert, I didn't do it. It took me 3 characters to figure out the strategy, 3rd time's the thing. Somewhere along the way, this stopped being a white item challenge and became a keep the dogs alive while ignoring everything you can challenge. The build was heavily based on Maya's fluffy squishy pet conjurer. I recreated most of it from memory, and it carried my sorry ass through this challenge. And that's it for this time, folks. Do the engagement things if you wanna help out. May Lady Luck step on you and bless your loot. Thanks for watching, see you next time, take care now, bye bye then.